Welcome to WebDynpro for ABAP. The goals of this course are to understand the role of WebDynpro ABAP with regard to SAP's user interface strategy and to develop applications based on WebDynpro for ABAP. The prerequisites for this course are a good understanding of fundamental ABAP concepts, an efficient use of ABAP workbench tools, and a good knowledge of the concepts of object-oriented programming. If you have one of the listed software releases, you will easily be able to follow the course. Let's have a look at the content of this course. Welcome to our WebDynpro video tutorial. What you have seen in the past slides is the history of SAP web applications. Of course, it was a brief overview only, starting very early in 1996. What all these have in common is they make use of the Internet Transaction Server, SAP ITS. And the SAP ITS is still a technology that is used and will be used in the future to map existing Dynpro-based transactions to HTML pages. This is a necessity because it is impossible to convert all Dynpro-based transactions to WebDynpro in an acceptable amount of time. SAP ITS is the only technology which can be used to web-enable existing Dynpro-based transactions. For all other technologies, other than ITS, the application has to be completely rewritten. On one of the slides you saw the introduction of HTML-B. That was 2002, the final release of HTML-B. This is actually technology that is used in business server pages, BSPs. BSP is the ABAP technology for freestyle programming. The developer has complete control over the look and feel of the user interface, and therefore almost anything is possible. BSPs can be compared to JSPs on the Java side. For standard applications, SAP prefers WebDynpros over the BSPs, but still BSPs are in use, for example, for CRM. BSP is the only of these technologies that allows designing of sophisticated internet applications based on ABAP. SAP's WebDynpro for Java as well as for ABAP is a new step in the development of web-based user interfaces. WebDynpro applications are built using declarative programming techniques based on the model view controller paradigm. That is, you specify which UI elements you want on the client and where these elements get the data from. You define the possible navigation path declaratively in your application. And then a standard runtime framework generates all the code to create the user interface automatically. This relieves you of the repetitive coding tasks involved in writing HTML and making it interactive with JavaScript. Dynpro ABAP has been available since SAP NetWeaver Application Server 7.0, also formerly known as NetWeaver 2004S. Dynpro for ABAP has been closely integrated into the ABAP Workbench transaction SE80. When we compare SAP's web user interface technologies, we have to realize that Internet Transaction Server is a technology that's on the market for a long time now, but it has only one purpose, that is to basically map SAP ABAP Dynpros to HTML pages. It has a long response time because of this mapping. Then we have the business server pages. They allow developers complete control over the look and feel. They give all freedom in development and perform normally faster than Dynpro. They have a smaller footprint, memory footprint on the system. But in terms of development, the UI development is much slower than with Dynpro, because Dynpro has a standardized user interface with the disadvantage that developers cannot put their own code into the rendered HTML code. When we have a look at the application scenarios that are possible with Dynpro, then in the first place, Dynpro can make reuse of methods, existing methods in global classes, most prominently here the Dynpro specific assistance class, and then call the business data from there. Or Dynpro can make use of the regular function modules, or if the data is not in an SAP system, can also call web services. What should never be done is to have a select statement or any database access directly in Dynpro, because we will see later that even SAP's code inspector does not look for this kind of select statement. This is because of the model view controller concept. The database access, which is part of the model, should not be contained directly in the Dynpro component. So what are the benefits of Dynpro compared with the other technologies we learned already? In Dynpro, you write only minimal code. You have to provide only minimum of design. You have a clear separation of layout of your views and the logic in the controllers. Because of this, it's easier to reuse your components. Dynpro is compatible with multiple platforms and does not create a footprint on the client because it's browser-based, so no need for installation of SAP GUI. And it has support for 508 accessibility, which means screen reading. SAP's Dynpro philosophy is simple but straightforward. It's better to have fewer lines of handwritten code. So, put together, Dynpro is using a declarative meta model for defining UIs. The development environment generates the required source code from this abstract definition. You can still manipulate the user interface from the source code, which is sometimes necessary to implement dynamic changes that you don't know at design time. Dynpro provides for a clean separation of business logic and user interface, and this separation is achieved through a modified implementation of the model view controller design paradigm. Moreover, Dynpro provides wizards that support the definition of forms and tables in the user interface and source code in the controller methods. This also reduces the development effort significantly. Because of all these repetitive tasks of user interface coding have been eliminated, the developer can focus more on the flow of the business logic.